I would like to talk about instincts, what they are, how we use them, how we misuse them, why we have them, what we have them for, all of those things, and how they apply to me today. One thing that COVID really showed me, and probably all of us, is how connected we all are. We're like a whole bunch of different people doing different stuff, but we're very connected. I think there was a movie called 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon. I know that we're all there. They're suggesting that we're 6 degrees separating us from knowing everybody on this planet. And so it shows us how closely we are knit as a community, as a world. We're not very far apart in reality. And then what COVID showed me is that how I'm connected within myself. And so God has designed us in a way, in a beautiful way, that we are all connected within ourselves and with each other. And if I'm not connected properly within myself, then I'm not going to be connected properly on the outside. So COVID really showed me that I had these instincts inside of me, what we call like a social instinct, a security instinct, and a sex instinct, where we connect inside, but we also connect with each other on the outside. And so I became very insular because the outside world, we were shut down. On the inside, it really made certain things apparent a lot closer, because I was forced to look on the inside. And so watching the news every day, there's this fear and there's this intrepidation of like, oh, my hands are dirty, I have to hand sanitize every corner I turn. I'm like in my house hand sanitizing. And I'm like, oh, my hands are dirty, and I have to wear a mask, and I have to do this, and I have to be protected because the outside world is going to threaten my life and my family's life. And then there's all these things being set up. What, I'm going to get a ticket if I disobey this law and this rule. And it's like, I just want to curl up in a ball and just be disconnected, but it's impossible. And then out came Zoom. And I'm like, what is this Zooming? All of a sudden, I found a whole community of people with the same spirit that I have, not the spirit of fear, which is produced and promoted by the world and by watching news and looking at Facebook and all of the divisive stuff that there is. All the scrolling, it's really rooted in fear. And now I'm connected on Zoom to thousands of people with the same spirit of God, and we get together and we talk, and I feel like we're brothers and sisters all over the world. I've worked with people in England and Australia and India, and it blows my mind that they have the same spirit of God, connected to God. And I feel like we're a bunch of family members. And so I just wanted to really bring into light of how we're made in our basic instincts, why God did that to us, and what the point is, and then how we can misuse them and lead us into harm. And so I come into balance with a relationship with God who solves all of my problems. So we look at the problem, and in LifeLab, we talk about the worm dealer. We have the story about the bird, and he's going about the desert, and it's hard times, and he's trying to get the worms, and he's trying to eat properly, and he's trying to nourish himself, and he's taking cover in the appropriate places. And he is designed to survive these harsh conditions. And I truly believe that there are harsh conditions in our lives even today, that God has designed us to live properly and to be tested and to be strengthened and to go through these hard times to get rid of some stuff. Like, I'm reminded of the proverb that the silversmith puts in the boiling pot of cauldron, and as they boil the rock and the where the silver is, all the dross, all the bad stuff gets scooped off. It separates. And that's what hard times and hard measures do to us. It actually strengthens us. if we do it God's way. But this little bird ran into a worm dealer. Does any of you know a worm dealer? You might know a worm dealer or two in your lives, and they always come at you with a promise of abundance without any dependence. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about the hard times. You don't have to worry about all that stuff that just it's okay. I got you. Here's a worm. Here's 2 worms. Here's 4 worms, but I require some feathers. And over the course of time, because this little bird's instincts were out of whack, they were exaggerated of like, this is hard, but this is easy. I'm going this route. And he couldn't fly. He could not do what he was designed to do because he did it his way and he got his results. So what is the problem that motivates me to enter into the conversation with the worm dealer? What promotes me to enter into out of my design, and maybe it's ignorance at some level. Maybe it's not really knowing what God's ways are. Maybe I don't know what the spiritual life entails of discipline and structure and sacrifice. And so I look for an easier way. And so when I look at the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous on page 67, they talk about this fear is a corroding thread that affects all of our lives, that affects all of our basic instincts, how we were made, how we are made inside of us. And so fear is through the fabric of my existence, and it affects every area of my life if I don't take that to God, because I can't remove the fear on my own. That's God's job. My job is to identify it and go, I'm being driven by the slave driver of fear, and I'm not being guided by God's love and light. I think even if we don't know what God's love and light are, we can get to that point where I'm burdened, I'm drained, I'm being driven. I don't want to have a relationship with the slave driver anymore. And that's, many of us get into the 12 steps and we get into the fellowship, and we've looked for ease and comfort in other substances and relationships, and whether it's food or whatever it is, fill in the blank. But the reality is, when we're being driven by the slave driver and we're going to get the worms, how the easiest way, it's an illusion. Because the Dr. Silkworth in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, he actually says that we chase the effect of these things, whether it's the relationship or the food or the drugs or the alcohol or the job or the work or the money or the social media, whatever it is. We chase the effect, but it's elusive. We never actually get it. We're looking for this sense of ease and comfort, but that's what they use these words. It's elusive and a sense of, because it actually doesn't exist. In the addictive life, those things are a perception problem. They're elusive because they don't exist in the addictive life. So when I get ease and comfort, it actually is a lie that those things are in the addictive life. It's actually an illusion that those things exist in the addictive life. In the spiritual life, there's a promise of ease and comfort. God says, I am the shepherd, you are my sheep. And my rod and my staff will comfort you. Not a bottle, not a soother, not a blanket. My rod and my staff will comfort you. My discipline, my structure will comfort you. My protection will comfort you. And my burden is easy. All you have to do is connect to me, and I take all of your burdens. But that's a lie of the enemy. That's a lie of the worm dealer, is that I will give you ease and comfort. But it's this elusive effect that we're trying to chase after that doesn't even exist. And then we're caught up in addiction. The reality is, if anybody's drinking or using drugs or stuck in relationships and codependency, adrenaline addiction, food addiction, whatever it is, we have to get to the real truth of what the problem is. And we say, why do we drink? Why are we in these relationships? Why am I fueled by adrenaline? Why am I fueled by sugar or social media, whatever it is? The real answer is on page 23 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it says, if at some time the alcoholic wants to be honest, we have to say we have no idea. I don't know is the real answer. Because isn't that what the basics of addiction is that I have no clue, I'm just stuck here? Because I do it when I'm happy, I do it when I'm sad, I do it when I'm celebrating, I do it when I'm mourning, I do it when I'm bored, I do it when I'm angry, I do it when I'm happy, sad, lonely, tired, all of the I do it all the time. So there's no real reason. And the reason that I give myself is that I need ease and comfort. But even that's a lie, because I don't get ease and comfort from that. I get numbness and I get isolation. And that's the lie of the enemy. So if I'm rooted in fear, I have these cast of characters that I like to talk about. And the cast of characters, I believe, never go away. It's this 2% that even in a relationship with God that solves all of my problems, this 2%, for me anyway, God leaves there. And there's these cast of characters that are rooted in fear. They're not as loud as they used to be. 15 years ago, they were running the show. They were screaming and yelling. They were cheering me on. They were booing me. They were very present in a very loud and extravagant way. Today, they're a lot quieter, and I can see them. And my job now is to watch for them and take them to God. Watch for them and take them to God. That's my job. That's what I get to do today. Is I get to watch for these things come up. I get to watch for the cast of characters rooted in fear that are trying to run the show for me. So what are these basic instincts? I'm going to read out of a book called The 12 and 12. It's 12 Steps and 12 Traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. And on page 42, we see where I'm going to read. Creation gave us instincts for a purpose. Without them, we wouldn't be complete human beings. If men and women didn't exert themselves to be secure in their persons, made no effort to harvest food or construct shelter, there would be no survival. If they did not reproduce, the earth would not be populated. If there was no social instinct, if men cared nothing for the society of one another, there would be no society. So these desires for sex relation, for material and emotional security, and for companionship are perfectly necessary and right, and surely God-given. Yet these instincts, so necessary for our existence, often far exceed their proper functions. Powerfully, blindly, many times subtly, they drive us, dominate us, and they insist upon ruling our lives. Our desire for sex, for material and emotional security, and for our importance, place in society often traumatize us. While thus out of joint, man's natural desires cause him great trouble, practically all the trouble there is. No human being, however good, is exempt from these troubles. Nearly every serious emotional problem can be a case of misdirected instincts. When that happens, our great natural assets, the instincts, have turned into physical and mental liabilities. The God-given, what God gave us for good, we turn for our self-centered evil, and we half the time we don't even know that it's happening. But if we're being driven by the slave driver of fear, the cast of characters, that's where they pop out of, then I'm going to be burdened. I'm going to be troubled. I'm going to be anxious. I'm going to be living in fear, living in resentment, living out of insecurity, self-pity, all of those things I'm going to be living out of, and I get further and further away from God. I get further and further away from my solution. And so when we look at the social instinct, this is where our pride and self-esteem are. This is where my ego is. This is where the cast of characters is. This is where my reputation comes from. This is what I want you to see of me, and what I need to see of myself for me to be okay. This is a part of myself that is formed from early childhood and right on through. So that's where my social comes in as a part of my instincts. And then the security, the ambition of what I want to happen and the security of what I need to happen inside for me to be okay. That's my expectations. And then sex is not just the act of, but it's how do I connect to the people around me? How do I connect to God's children all around me? How do I connect to my community? This is gender-based. This is all of my belief systems. And this is the intricate design of inside of me, my ego. And so when I let that run the show, then I'm going to get horrible results. And then I become under I come under the burden of the slave driver of fear. And so as I begin to clear all of the pathways to God, I look at, when we go through the inventory, I look at all these parts of self and I identify the fears. And then I bring that to God, the resentment, the fear, the insecurity, the self-pity, all of those things, including my drinking and my drugging and all of those things, I can't do anything about. And I give them to God on his altar. And now he's able to take those away and actually come into the temple of my heart. Because that's what love, consensual love is. I have to actually bring something to the temple. He's just not going to clear it all away, because that would be controlling. So if I was in a relationship with somebody and I became your friend, and I didn't think the way you ate was good because you eat Big Macs every second day, like you're killing yourself, and you're scrolling on your phone nonstop, like 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day. You're watching too much news, and I take these things away from you. Here's some carrots. Eat some carrots. It's good for you. Get off your phone. We'll just get rid of the data plan. You can just call and you can make texting. And wouldn't you say that's a controlling relationship? But don't we want that from God as well? God, just take away everything. I don't even know what I'm asking for, but take it away. That's not a consensual, loving relationship. And so the beautiful thing about the inventory, I get to inventoryize. I get to write out all of the stuff that's on the store shelves of my heart that I'm trying to sell to the world around me. And that's why I have a heavy burden. That's why I have anxiety. That's why I have discipline problems. That's why I'm looking for this ease and comfort. I'm looking to be numb. So how does that look in my real life today? Because I've done a lot of this work and I've given up a lot of the fears, but I think God's beautiful design is he's given me that 2% that causes me to continue to have a relationship with him. And so the other day, me and my wife, Vicky, we decided, we went to Toronto. We went to the 6. We went to the T-Dot. And she said, I'm driving. And I'm like, but I'm the driver. I'm actually a professional driver by trade. It's been a number of years since anybody's paid me for it, but the cast of character is still there. His name is Pro Driver Jon. He's a professional driver. He makes a living driving, and he can do multiple things at the same time. He can drive. He can eat a sandwich. He can talk on the CB. He could read an article if he felt like it, but he doesn't really read because he's got better things to do. He's listening to podcasts. He's taking notes. He's doing multiple things, opening and reading maps just to make sure the GPS, okay, tell you the truth, GPS didn't exist when Pro Driver Jon was actually on the job. But he's opening the maps. He's eating the sandwich. He's lighting cigars. And he knows how to get it done properly. He knows how to lane change. He knows how to rule and run the roads because he's got a job to do. That's a professional driver. And so that cast of character is still in. So beautiful Vicky wanted to drive. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You got this, little one. You go prove yourself. You prove yourself a driver of the roads. Although she doesn't think like that. She just thinks we're going point A to point B and we're going to have fun doing it. And we're going to listen to podcasts. We're going to listen to music. We're going to crack some jokes. We might have a tickle fight on the way down. We're going to stop at every restaurant and get a coffee. And then every second restaurant, we got to pee. And we're going to get there when we get there. I take a deep breath. And I found it enjoyable. And I remember the one of the traditions of our recovery circles is that we have no trusted leaders. We are all trusted servants. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for professional driver Jon that gets the job done to give up the steering wheel and go, why don't we share that responsibility a little bit more? So what's happened over the last month or so, pro driver Jon in the morning has been sitting to Vicky, and I have been instructing her. I have been guiding her. I have been helping her. I've been double checking for her to make sure we're safe. I've been giving her advice in the driving world to get the job done properly. And then I've realized, this is a realization. I'm like, some days she's on point, and then some days she's like, I feel like you're driving with your emotions. So I thought I'd share that with her. It didn't go so well. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to turn her into me. Isn't that playing God? I'm trying to change you into me. I'm trying to make you recover just like me. I'm trying to teach you how to have a relationship with God just like me. I'm trying to make you a driver just like me. I'm trying to create in the world around me, in the people around me, out of my cast of characters, because I don't think you're doing it right. I don't think you're doing it professionally enough. I don't think you're meeting a standard, and I don't think that you're doing it properly. So I'm going to tell you how to do it. Isn't that playing God? And isn't that me living my life out of the cast of characters, out of my security instinct, out of my social instinct, and now I'm out of whack. And now I'm running the show, and it's causing insecurity, self-pity, it's causing fear, and causing resentment. And I'm doing God's job for him, and I'm not enjoying my life. It's a burden. And I don't want to continue in the freedom that we're trying to be partners in my relationship with my wife. And it's like, it's just a simple thing of letting go of a steering wheel, and pro driver Jon comes out. And it's a horrible person to live out of, because there's expectations, there's condemnation. I'm an instructor all the time. That's a horrible person to be sitting beside. It's stressful for the other person. It's condemning to the other person. And I just want to, a public apology and repentance. Today, I apologize for professional pro driver Jon. And I want to put him away. And that I want God to do his job, and I want to be the passenger. But don't I do this in different areas of my life? I want to be the driver. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it fast enough. Oh, we can't have coffee. We're not going to get there on time because we have to pee-pee. No, we don't do it like that. We do it like this. And aren't I being controlling? And aren't I being condemning? And am I doing that in multiple areas of my life? I want to be a child with you in the sandbox, and I want to be loving, and I want to be a representation of God's goodness and kindness and love, and not of taking the responsibility and the steering wheel from God. But I do that because my instincts, I'm operating in fear and not God's love. So that was my meditation this morning, is like, am I living out of God's love, or am I listening to the cast of characters rooted in fear? And maybe you're somebody that hasn't ever even seen this concept, but would you join us in LifeLab? Would you join us in actually looking and creating the visual picture of a tree that is poison, that is rooted in fear and condemnation and insecurity and selfishness and resentment? And can we work together and give that to God? Because that's what my job is to lead people into a relationship with God that will solve all of their problems. And he's going to rip it out root and branch. And he's going to grow another tree that's full of peace and goodness and kindness and love and self-control and patience and endurance and all of those things that is rooted in the Spirit of God, because he's given us a spirit to be able to connect to his spirit. So my prayer for you today is that you experience his love, that you are awakened, and the point of our recovery process is to give you an awakening, that you get to see the cast of characters, that you get to see what's separating us from God. And that's a beautiful place to be, that you can go, oh, I'm operating out of this fear. Professional Jon is back on the driving job. That's a horrible place to be. I want to, hands off, Jon, slap. Okay, thank you so much.